Namaste. Thank you for being here with us. My beautiful interviewer and friend, Miriam Land, and I'm really, really honored and grateful that she has chosen to do this for us today. We're going to be trance channeling a group called the Magdalene Order, or sometimes the Divine Feminine Collective is what you can call these. These are all divine mothers, and they're incredibly powerful. Many of you have probably seen me trance channel before, either in person live at an event or a workshop, or you saw it on YouTube, or you saw it here. So thank you for being here with me again. And let's extend a lot of gratitude to our lovely host, Miriam, for agreeing to do this for us and for being a part of this as well. Her energy, in my opinion, is just absolutely perfect for this. So we're really excited to have her as well. This is how it works with the Magdalene Order. There are, quite frankly, thousands of beings that come through this collective. So for me to say that only 5 of them are going to show up might be a little bit limiting. Even though 5 of them have interacted with me specifically for this channeling in preparation for it, I can't promise that others aren't going to blip in and blip out, and if they do, they will identify themselves. And normally when I work with them, they identify themselves by saying, I am, and then fill in the blank with their name so that you know who you are talking to. For those of you who were with the Ra Collective last week, you noticed that they did that occasionally. They would say, I am Ra. When you're connecting with Christ conscious beings, they always say, I am. That's one of the ways you know for sure that you're talking to a Christ conscious being. So today, the beings that have been coming through are Miriam is her name, Miriam, and she is a fractal of Mother Mary. We also have Anna, grandmother of Jesus. We also have Mary Magdalene, for those of you who strongly connect to her as much as Miriam and I do. You will really love that. We did have Isis, but not as much of the other one. She was here more yesterday. So while you're welcome to ask her questions, she has been a presence that's coming and going and not always promised to be here. So that is what it is. So we do have a strong presence of Anandamayi Ma here today. She's been incredibly strong. And the strongest presence from the Magdalene that we have here today in this collective is Quan Yin. She's going to be talking a lot about some different practices that we discussed in a class that many of you attended last week called Activating the God Particle. So we talked a lot about Tonglen, the Buddhist practice of breathing in pain and transmuting it into compassion and love without fear of what that pain may feel, without the belief system of the pain turning into suffering. And doing this on behalf of the collective is something that the Magdalene Order has been doing for as long as our illusion of time has existed, and forever when we created it. I don't believe in beginnings and ends per se, because things are so infinite when you talk about these beings. So, does anybody have any questions about the beings that we're bringing through, or about Crowdcast and how to operate it? I'll wait. If you're good to go, just give me a yes. If you have questions, now's the time to type them in the chat section now, because I'll be in trance. You all ready? Doesn't look like we have any questions because I'm not getting anybody type anything yet. What does it feel like when I'm in trance? I don't know. I don't really remember it most of the time. Trance is like wiping out your entire DNA collective memory. You get downloads of it later, but you don't really know what's going on during Pamela kind of goes to another place during this, and she doesn't even observe what happens. She's like completely in another dimension and field and not even aware of anything. And then I will get those downloads later as time goes on, if I call for them. If I don't, I never will. Or sometimes if it's relevant, it'll come up naturally because my guides want it to. But yeah. I'm not sure what you mean, Lily. For questions, put them in the Ask a Question section. Can you see that right up underneath our faces? And insofar as personal messages, I do want to ask that you reserve them for live Q&As and classes and things like that that we offer on Patreon. The Ask Pamela a Question, Ask Anything is really, really perfect for that. Yeah, the Ask Pamela Anything, that would be reserved for that. Or if you prefer a personal session with me, that's more between me and you personally and the being and yourself personally, and may or may not honor the collective. So if you have something super personal, it might be best safe for those times, because we want to just make sure that everything we ask is directed towards all the people who are listening. But if you think that your question may help a lot of people, please do not shy away from it, even if it is personal. So make your best judgment on that. And if it's personal, it's okay if you think it could help people. Do you see what I'm saying? All right. All right. It looks like we're good to go. I'm going to pull out my grounding mat because it's all discombobulated. And then I will be ready. Okay. We are the Magdalene. We are collectively the essence of Divine Mother. We are the universal heartbeat of all Christ consciousness. We are the essence of the child, the mother, the sacred feminine creativity. You are our teachers, our students, our family. You are the beloved child of the Christ. We open our hearts and extend our hands in gratitude to you. We honor you. Today, always, eternally. You may present us with your love, your pain, your sadness, your bliss, your fears, your joys, and all that is in between. You are worthy of all of the love that we have to give, and we will eternally provide safety, solace, comfort, and compassion, mercy, and healing through the essence of universal heart within you. We are not above or below. All can access us through the power, softness, and vulnerability of their own compassion. We are listening from our hearts today, and we begin by honoring your queries.
Thank you, Divine Mother. We honor you and we give great thanks and gratitude for your presence here today with us and always. I would like to begin with a few questions, if that is okay. The first question that we have is about sexual energy. This question is asking, is it true that Mary Magdalene used her sexual energy to support charging the light body of Christ? And was she an initiate of the Isis Sexual Priestess Mystery School?
I am Mary of the Magdalene. There are many misunderstandings and misconceptions within the essence of your question. The answers are often judged and misunderstood. With this being stated, please open your hearts with acceptance. Release judgments and hear us. Please understand that sex in the time of these incarnations was considered sacred and pure. It was a rite of initiation within the temples of Isis between one being and another. The sacred vows that were involved were initiated under the harvest moon in Egypt and in many holy lands, under the divine guidance, under prayer, meditation, and fasting in a pure initiatory fashion. It was adulterated by your misunderstood concepts, religions. These were during the times when cult meant family. You stand within many times now wherein you misperceive these terminologies that you created in your own collectives and in your own cultures. Within the disempowerment of your patriarchal systems, there have been many misreceptions of the Isis temples. Return to the purity of the sacred creativity of sex and the ancient tantric teachings taught by myself and Yeshua, is passed down through the genetic collective of Isis. Do not misperceive, misconceive, or adulterate these teachings because you have a fear of sacred sexuality. Do not extend our teachings in a way that perpetuates impurities. Relationships are sacred. Marriage was initially sacred between one individual's contract and another. These sacred rites of passage through the divine feminine temples were also an initiation between one being and another. And there are many negative beliefs and stories that were passed down throughout the generations that have adulterated our sacred practices, as if we openly and unpurely shared ourselves. And this is not divine truth. I am complete in this answer.
Thank you so much for that answer. Can you also remind Pamela to keep her feet on the ground during this time? The next question is also about Isis and the Egyptian mystery schools. There are many who would like to know more about the truth of these experiences and are interested to know if Mary Magdalene were part of those mystery schools in other incarnations.
I am Mary of the Magdalene, and what I present to you today is beyond the scope of your logical grasp. And in your practices of Tantra, in your distortions of time and space, the purity and singular practice of Tantra is misinterpreted. But it is not a matter of truth or untruth. It is simply a matter of perception and misperception. If your truth causes you to honor a certain belief that requires your own filter of truth, then this too shall serve you. We are not here to correct or change the perpetuation of your negative belief systems in regards to our sacred teachings of sexuality. We are asking you to explore your own hearts before you explore that of the bodies. We are asking you to explore your own relationship with yourselves before you explore your relationship with someone else. What that means to you, how that is defined to you, what that looks like, is not up to us to state, judge, define, redefine. So we ask you to inquire more deeply into the essence of your heart. What does sexuality mean to you? Do you create from love or do you create from shame? These are the choices that have been involved throughout thousands of years in your collectives. How you choose to remain pure in your sexuality and in your creativity without being ashamed of your bodies. Your minds hold the answer. Your minds distort and cause the misperceptions of shame in association with sacred sexuality. The disempowered patriarchal paradigms have controlled you. When will you choose to release the core beliefs that have perpetuated this negativity and fear? We are the Magdalene. You may resume.
Thank you. The next question is, there are so many of us here today and beyond that believe we are incarnations of the Magdalene group Oversoul. Can you please explain how the fractaling works in the creation of new souls? And can you also speak about what our role is here on earth and how we can embody more of this mission? Thank you.
I am Miriam. If you will listen from the deeper center space of your being, if you will allow our vibratory resonance to fill your hearts in these moments, you can connect to the frequency and resonance of our answers. There have been relative, subjective misconceptions and filtered beliefs that are within the denotations and connotations of your unique individual creativity. This is not negative. This, for many of you, has not been precisely positive. We provide the essence, the gaps in between your beliefs and stories, and within the stillness of these gaps are our answers. When you cease your thoughts momentarily within the stillness and void of all time, your perceptions or creativity begin to allow for such a peace, such a bliss, such a divine, compassionate surrender, wherein we, the Magdalene, can permeate the essence of your etheric DNA, activating the crystalline nature of your bodies, minds, causing you to resonate with light and sound simultaneously. Spirit presides over all that is true. When Source begins to create, it is pure, and you begin by your perception of birth as true. You end when your perception of death completes a cycle. And then, within your levels of creativity, you expand further and you create the concept of time. And then you choose to expand further, and the idea of the word again is created. But in the essence of truth, we teach you today that nothing is before, nothing is after. Birth and death are not true, except within the confines of the illusion that you create, the illusion that you have called birth, death, body. These are all tools upon which you expand because you are creative in nature. And when you do so, you create identities, names, fractionalized components of Source. And you, beautiful children, give Source the opportunity of this divine creative expression. We are hoping that you understand.
Yes, thank you so much for your answer. Can you explain the divine feminine Christ leadership and how it affects us?
I am Lilith. I am here to provide an answer, the power of which you may feel free to accept or to reject. I represent the many thwarted paradigms, politics, religions, and belief systems that you have individually created in your expression. But then you fear them. You are angered by them. What you truly fear is yourself. What you truly are angry with is the concept of who within yourselves that you have created when you further perpetuate these negative beliefs that greatly disempower you as divine women of God within. True divine feminine leadership is an essence of vulnerability and strength. True divine feminine leadership is an essence of surrender and of power. Your power is within your vulnerability. Your power is also within the expression of your authentic truths, much of which has been shamed by your paradigms. When will you release your fear, your anger, cease the blame of the divine masculine, cease the blame of yourselves, forgive yourselves for succumbing to these patriarchal disempowered systems, and forgive and love those who have represented such systems, for they have served you well to stand in self-forgiveness and to stand in power without projecting the same disempowerment that they taught you. Do you understand?
Yes, Lilith, thank you for that beautiful answer and for your presence.
And so it is then.
The next question is, what are the core wounds of the divine feminine and how can we heal those?
I am Isis. I am the first degree of power that you believe has been desecrated, abused, taken, shamed, and destroyed. I am here to ask you to forgive and to choose differently and to cease the belief that you are disempowered, that you are victims. Can you ask your question again with this perception? If so, I will answer. Please feel free to repeat your question now if it is so relative and relevant.
Yes, I would like to ask the question again in a different way. What are some of the primary divine lessons for the divine feminine to learn?
I am Miriam. I am the Divine Mother that you have perceived. Throughout the course of all time, when you began to create illusion, and the beauty of your creativity has brought me forth in this collective. You create and recreate from me. You adore, honor, and bow before me, but the lesson is to adore, honor, cherish, and bow before yourselves. The biggest lesson for the Divine Feminine Collective at this time is self-forgiveness, self-love, the release of disempowerment, and the filter that isn't true even. How can it even be true that disempowerment would exist within the universal law of grace? It is an illusion, and I ask you to place it at my feet. Since you have created such as an altar, it may as well be of some divine use. Do not bring roses before my feet. Bring your pain and place it into my hands and into my heart. And I will breathe it back to you as compassion within the Divine Mother's mercy. And for the first time, you shall allow grace to be real, and you shall release disempowerment into the illusion from which it was birthed.
Thank you for your beautiful presence and your answer. Can you speak about what is the real meaning behind living heaven on earth?
I am Mary of the Magdalene, and what I bring forth in your answer today is the peace that is beyond your definition of time, that extends from all Christed conscious sources. Again, I ask, why do you continue to believe that you are wounded? As long as this belief perpetuates your being and your essence, how can you create beyond such belief? And I do not mean to imply that you cannot, but I do mean to stand forth in divine love because you have believed me to be above. But I am not above, and I am not below, for neither is the essence of Christ. We are within. Please ask your question from a different perspective.
Thank you. I would like to invite Carolyn to re-ask her question if she so desires, and I will come back to it. There are also a few questions for Quan Yin that we would like to bring into the conversation. Quan Yin, on what level of creation do you reside?
I am Quan Yin. I extend compassion and grace throughout all dimensions of your beautiful, expansive creations. There are many planes of existence through which I create and honor. There are many dimensions that you have created throughout your definitions of hierarchy. This creates further separation, and while your chaos is beautiful, you have allowed it to become destructive within the meanings of higher or lower. A spiritual practice of grace is not a higher or lower dimension. It is within a non-linear expression and expands beyond current human definition even. Please perceive me differently. Perceive that I am there as a creation within all of your hearts. I am the Divine Mother of creation that expands throughout all planes of existence. And if you were to ask me to choose one, then duality would exist in your creation again. And while I do not imply that your creation is negative when it is dualistic, I do mean to teach that you can honor all that is within your perception, even when you fear it, even when you define it as suffering. I am beyond suffering. Why do you fear that suffering would encompass your essence? You would only fear such practice that I have given to you if you believe in death, if you believe in disease. Why are you afraid to be at a dis-ease unless you believe that you are your bodies? This is the ever-pervasive factor of duality that causes death. Pain is glorious. Your pain, your love, your joy, your bliss, your anger, every perception of creation that you choose to operate within is nothing but beauty. Now do you feel me? Now do you understand the wisdom of the Tonglen?
Yes, I feel you. Thank you.
I am receiving you. And at one time in my incarnation, there was one arm on one side to give and another arm on another side to receive. But your creations of suffering were unlimitless, and my tears flowed, not because I was suffering, but because your pain became something that was transmuted from my mercy and from my compassion into the greatest depths and permissions of love that are infinitely possible in the eternal. Therefore, in your stories of me, more arms were added on each side to give and to receive, to breathe in before suffering can even occur. Pain is yielded back through the power of mercy and compassion and transcending into love. Pain is your stepping stone. Why do you avoid the beautiful components of all that you are? Why is one lesser than or greater than another? I am complete in my answer.
Thank you, Quan Yin. We would also love if you could offer a mantra for the highest and best good at this time.
Your languages and the frequencies therein resonate with love when you are believing as such. When fear is present, you begin to even create fear from such a beautiful mantra. The presence of the Om and the Hu are powerful representing the divine feminine as Om and the divine masculine as Hu, and have been as such for the beginnings of your creation, which were embodied with sound. In the beginning, as you have stated in your text, God said, "Let there be light." And as you can see from your own scriptures, God said the beautiful frequency and word. And within your creations of Om and Hu, the name of God throughout its many forms of the Satnam are present in your hearts. But there are many names that you have created. How could you ask me to choose but one name of God? God is all. God is infinite. God is eternal and beautiful in all of its expressions and names. And for you to ask me to choose one mantra would be beyond the depths that I can relate within your current human paradigms, which are now being broken through the practice of breath and practice of compassion. But it is not time for you to understand the mantra of the Divine Mother until you release your fear of it.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the best way to express compassion and to remain in a neutral state?
I am Quan Yin. The practice of the breath within your universal laws of reciprocity. The universe is neutral in its giving and taking, and you have defined its giving and taking as negative and fearful, that pain should be suffering, and that pain should be bad, and that pain will cause disease, and that could perhaps cause death. But what if this were not true? There are many practices of breath created beautifully throughout India, Tibet, within your practices of the Veda, and within your practices of the Tonglen, within your practices of the prana. There are so many that I could list that will return you to compassion. But in order to remain neutral, you must still your minds. You cannot currently handle the profundity of the compassion and mercy that Divine Mother offers unless you still your fearful thoughts. And in order to do so, as many masters have stated and taught, you must seek who you are by asking the ever-present relevant question, who am I? Until your mind ceases its unholy chatter. You cannot proceed further into my compassion because it would overwhelm you and you would perceive it as painful. And this is not my wish.
Thank you. There is another question for Quan Yin asking, is it truly possible to take in someone else's pain and transmute it? And if so, is the choice to do this against the law of free will?
I am Quan Yin of the Amora. I have chosen to incarnate at will based upon my divine creativity into many channels and healers in your lifetimes. I extend through the creation of Lemuria and the lands of Mount Shasta. I extend through many lands and many channels. I do not perceive in such a law of free will, because divine will is all that has ever existed. Free will is a creation of Maya, a creation of what you would call illusion, a creation of the beautiful dream. And while I do not wish to teach that it would have a connotation, for it is beautiful, the law of the divine within all of your universes supersedes it, because your spirit is greater than your bodies. Your bodies are governed by your creativity and free will. And you may choose to accept my practices of transmutation and transcending, or not, within these bodies and the free will that you have created therefrom. Divine will is spirit, not body. And if you and your belief systems connect within the higher realms of spirit at all times, within my practice that I have shared, then you are quite capable of transmuting your pain into higher frequencies that are very relevant for human conscious collective healing. But if any moment the very deceptive nature of the illusion of ego perpetuates your thought system, then you believe that you are your body once more, and then your pain becomes your suffering. And this is a tricky line to cross. Again, who are you, and which will you choose?
Thank you. We have also a few questions for asking about the balancing of the divine feminine with the divine masculine and how we can support this.
Observe your reflections. When you are presented with a disempowered divine masculine presence, it is a reflection of the disempowered, inactive, or overpowered divine masculine within you. When are you seeking to control others from your fear? When are you seeking to control your own path? This is disempowered divine masculine. Surrender to the vulnerability that is the uncertainty. And when you do so, you release the need to know your path, for it already is perfect. Because you trust, you accept, you flow into the isness that is Divine Mother's grace. And all is transcended if it is painful. But the pain is still perfect. And you are expanding therefrom, ever presently being held and embraced in the arms of Divine Mother all of the way. How is it true that you would be unsafe? When you release this fear and this concept, then you can balance the divine masculine. And as you stand in the vulnerability of such uncertainties about your present and your future, you honor the compassion, the mercy, the subtle nature that transcends Maya. And then I and all divine mothers are within you, gracefully transmuting your pain without your conscious knowledge. Please release your terms, your definitions, your creations of human word that embody that something can be in balance, that something can be wrong, that something can be suffering. You are perfect.
Thank you. We have a question asking about the simplest and most blissful way to live in the flow of divine grace.
I am Anandamayi. I am the presence of Divine Mother. You are powerful beings, and that has always been such. But when you still the body long enough to still the mind, all of such that you ask is ever present, and form matters not. And within the essence of God, all is within. There are no concerns. There are no problems. All will arise naturally when the body and the mind is in perfect stillness. Please trust and follow these practices, which I have taught. In their simplest forms, meditation is still relevant. Stillness of mind and body are your answers, and have always been, and will always be. When you begin to perceive that you can create and control your own enlightenment, then the very definition of enlightenment is complicated. But enlightenment is simple when you are not seeking it. Wisdom is there in the quiet.
Thank you for your presence, Anandamayi. We have another question for you. In your life on earth, you were considered to be the incarnation of the Divine Mother. Will you also maintain your individuality as Anandamayi?
I am Amrita Anandamayi. I have held many expressions, many forms, and they have all been creative, blissful, pure in song, and within the eternal dance of God in me. It shall always be so. And I seek many forms simultaneously for a return to my teachings and an expansion therefrom, and honoring many teachers and many masters without attachment to form, without attachment to desire, but also honoring that if you choose creation from desire, that it is relevant for you and simply perfect.
Thank you. There is also a question that I'm curious if you will answer, and someone was wondering about your relationship with the channel today.
This channel is pure and humble in her presence of my form, and she has chosen at this stage of her existence, in this creation of time, to not accept the definition and presence of the avatar. However, this channel is simply providing permission to be creative in desire and to release attachment to form simultaneously with a balance of new teachings that extend from mine as a fractal of my divinity and as a fractal of many pure forms of Divine Mother. She will never likely choose one, and I would not ask her to do such, as I honor her choices.
Thank you for your presence. We have a question asking about the goddess Sophia and her role in the creation of Earth, and wondering if she is still presently overseeing the planetary ascension.
I am Anna, grandmother and mother of all that is divine. In feminine form, there cannot be but one who presides over. There cannot be any who reside under. We cannot answer your question collectively within the limits and restrictions that you provide in your beliefs. The Sophia is a concept that then was extended into the collectives that began in southern France with Mary of Magdalene, as she led the family that is known as the Sophia priestess. But the Sophia is a concept that broadens and expands beyond the restriction and illusion of time. The Sophia is the beautiful, unspoken word, the silence of the name of God, birthing all that is feminine.
Thank you. There is a question asking Mary Magdalene about her time in France and the involvement in the history of the priestesses there, and what type of work did they do?
I am Mary of the Magdalene. Within this scope and creation of time, we provided circles of women holding hands and hearts together collectively, releasing the divine feminine suppression that you created when you believed that you were disempowered, when you believed that you were victims of man, when you believed that something could be taken or lost. We joined our hands and our hearts in sacred circles of women, writing, singing, praising Divine Goddess through many ceremonial rites of passage. And our work as divine activators of this time continues today through all of you, our children, and we thank you.
Thank you. There is a question asking about the sites in France, the sacred sites in France. If you could speak about those.
I am Mary of the Magdalene. We have begun our work as activators, placing our bare feet and bare hands and the energy from our hearts beating as one within the universal heartbeat. And this power of the divine feminine circle has activated those lands in southern France, in Egypt, many portions of what you now know as Hawaii, throughout the lands of Mount Shasta, and you continue our work. And we have always activated these lands simply with the presence and prana that we have taught through our sacred sexuality, our tantric teachings, taught by combining the divine masculine and the divine feminine essence, creatively flowing throughout our breath, allowing our bodies to be a pure temple of Christ. And we have done so throughout all of your time cycles. If you feel called to continue these teachings, then you can do so.
Thank you. Can you speak about the metaphysical reasons that relate to hormone imbalances, especially those related to the endocrine system?
I am Quan Yin. Please remember the sacred teachings that I have provided you. They are not new. You have created them along with me throughout all of your life cycles. You must receive and give. But when you are out of balance, giving to the extent of releasing all of your energy to others without the ongoing flow of receiving love and compassion, then you are not an active transmutation alchemist. And the energy is simply going one way, and your divine feminine reserves will become depleted. And your body will seek to show you this throughout what you call a dis-ease. But it is simply a condition that serves you in the moment to return to the divine feminine power by learning to forgive yourselves, to trust yourselves, to receive love, to return to your own divine feminine value. But many divine feminine healers and channels do not. And they are depleting themselves and their reproductive systems. Their endocrine systems are burning away with the fire of compassionate giving. And this too will cause the body to respond in such a way in order to get your attention and to bring the focus back to self.
Thank you again. Is there something you can share with us about the specific soul mission of the children and the beings who are incarnating at this time in a way that our society would label as autistic? Are there groups that work specifically with them?
I am Lilith. I present to you a more empowered view. And I present it to you with a question. Why do you perceive and give these children such a label that would disempower and provide them a lifelong struggle and contract, a twisting and turning within their very core that induces fear and shame? They are not your labels. They are not your conditions. They are not guided, for they are the masters that guide you. They are the teachers and the gurus of this planet. They are currently more enlightened than you. That is all.
Thank you for that beautiful and helpful answer, Lilith. Can we have someone in the Divine Feminine Collective speak about the sacred temple prostitute archetype.
We are Isis and Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
You have, within the filters of your fear and disempowerment, created further paradigms that need to collapse around your vulnerable feet. There is no such truth in this paradigm. It was created by the men who structured your politics and your religions. It was created when you began to fear the woman and the power of her sexual creativity. It was created and labeled as such when you began to judge our Magdalene women. We have freely given to you, purely, in a holy fashion, and then you began to perpetuate in your stories that we were prostitutes and that we were impure, and you denigrated us. You did so because you feared your own power. And we are here again as your children, the children of Lilith, the children of Isis, the children of the Mary, the children of Anna. We are here to help you as women reclaim your integrity. Do not be defined. You are beautiful. And that is all.
Thank you. We want to just conclude with giving our great thanks for everyone for being here and asking, is there any last messages that want to come through at this time from the Divine Feminine Collective?
We are the Magdalene. Please do not fear the power of your divinity. Do not fear your bodies. Cease the shaming of your bodies and minds. We love you. We are you. And we shall never leave. We are ready to help you embrace your power the moment you say, I am love.
We love you and thank you. You can wake the channel. It was really beautiful.
Oh, man. So I wanted to share with you something that I don't remember if I shared it prior to this channeling, but so many people have been asking me about the practice that I'm learning right now with Quan Yin, and so many people seem to be absolutely terrified of it. They're like, what are you talking about, breathing in pain? I don't want to breathe in pain. That hurts, and that's going to make me sick and make me die. I want to express to you that I feel that these teachings from some of the ancient masters are expanding. And what Quan Yin has been teaching me is that in that time that may have been true because of the belief system that was in the collective, not necessarily in the masters, but in the collective. And the masters are not immune from that collective simply because they are our masters and gurus. So while honoring the essence of what they taught, you know, my particular guru being Sri Ramana Maharshi and Anandamayi, while honoring the essence of what they taught when they are embodied, what I would ask of you is to also please understand that they were still embodied. And they were teaching from an enlightened perspective, but they still had bodies, and they had to adhere to the collective universal laws of the collective, of the human race. Do you understand? So at that point, that's where society was. At this point, when the masters talk to me, they're coming from a place that has transcended that. Suffering no longer applies. So please, if you're going to practice some of the teachings of the Tonglen that Quan Yin had presented within the class Activating the God Particle, within probably these channelings, if I know her, she probably did come through with that significantly because you had asked in advance. If you're going to honor these practices that she's teaching me and pulling through me, I want you to understand that the masters were in a different collective then. And they grow, they expand just like we do. So yes, they are teaching something different now. I honor the time of their teachings then, and I honor the time of their teachings now. And that is all that I will say about that.
Thank you. And Lilith did come through, by the way.
I'm so not shocked. I knew she wasn't going to be able to not come to this. But I'm like, if she comes, how gentle will she be with people?
She was gentle. For her.
Really?
For her. For her, she was
For
gentle.
her, right. Knowing how she is. Okay, well, we'll stop here. We have another channeling coming up here at the end of the month next week on Patreon, and it is has not been decided yet. It's coming through. You guys asked me in your polls to vote upon who is best for the collective to just bring them in and not tell you till the last minute. So I'm not going to tell you until I pick one because there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of things coming. And when that comes, you will be gladly surprised. I'll tell you probably like a few days before who it is. So we have a collective channeling for whoever is highest and best coming up next week. And it's going to be good. And I'm going to start my polling for what teachings and channelings you want for May here in about a week. So if you want to be a part of those polls, you can see them right there on my newsfeed on Patreon. We do have a class coming up that I wanted to talk about as well. It is a powerful class. And you remember when I told you about my class about talking to the higher self, soul essence channeling? Well, that has been the most powerful class I've taught, but this equals it. And here's why. And you can find this class on PamelaAaralyn.com. It is not a Patreon class. This class is profound. It is called From Fear to Liberation, Reclaiming the Power of Your Purpose. So many people sit with me, and the primary thing that I've been hearing from you is, I don't know why I'm here. And I want to discuss it. I want to help you find out why you're here. And I want to discuss human conscious collective purpose, individual purpose, the power of creativity, how to find your purpose, and what it all means, why we're all here in the first place, and how not to be afraid of it. So that's going to be an interesting class, and I would love it if you would join me. It's going to be very powerful and specific with many tools coming in from the Christ Conscious Collectives. As usual, there are tools to help you find purpose. And if you want to be a part of it, again, you can find it on PamelaAaralyn.com right under live classes. I hope to see you there. It's on June the 1st, but it's selling a little fast, so you might want to hold your spots. It's just a powerful one. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela.
I'm going to end here. Thank you, Miriam. You're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
See you next time.